The man couldn't hold it anymore. Without a second thought, he took off his pants and started peeing into the sea. But suddenly, a sail appeared from behind him, violently crashing towards the man. Luckily, he grabbed onto the railing in time, barely managing to control his body, but his current state was very dangerous. Once he fell down, he would forever be trapped in this sea area. The man screamed in fear, attempting to crawl back up, but it was difficult to find a place to exert force in this position. The man could only struggle with all his might. His body kept shaking. Finally, his feet managed to reach the edge of the yacht. As soon as his body was firmly secured, the man let out a sigh of relief. After muttering amachuafo in his mouth, he quickly left the edge of the railing, still in shock. The man didn't dare to stay at the edge. The intense urge to pee was still haunting him. He couldn't hold it any longer. Hastily, he went into the cabin, entered the bathroom, and relieved himself. But the next second, the bathroom door suddenly closed automatically. The man turned around, thinking it was caused by the sea breeze. But when he looked again, he was astonished to find that the porthole was not open. However, the man didn't think too much about it. In order to get rid of the smell of urine, he pushed open the porthole. A gust of blue sea breeze blew in, dispersing the air mixed with the urine smell. At that moment, he felt an unprecedented sense of relief. But just as he was about to open the door and leave, he found that the door was tightly locked, completely unable to open it. The bewildered man had a confused expression on his face. In order to open the door as quickly as possible, the man tried to figure it out. But no matter how he turned or twisted, he couldn't open the door. At this moment, the door seemed to be welded shut. There was no movement at all. In order to leave this place as soon as possible, the man thought about it and tried to find a suitable tool to open the door. So, he opened the vanity behind him and found a pair of scissors that could be used to pry. But no matter how he tried, the size of the scissors never matched the screw, unable to make any progress on the door lock. In despair, he even tried to force the door open with the scissors. Clearly, the man started to panic, but the door remained shut as if it were welded. No matter how he twisted and pulled, there was no movement. Just when the man was at a loss, suddenly, the distant sound of a cargo ship roaring came. The man leaned out of the window and looked into the distance, only to see a giant cargo ship slowly approaching the yacht. Obviously, it was about to intersect with the yacht. Seeing the hope of rescue at hand, the man waved his clothes vigorously, shouting loudly, hoping someone would hear him. Clearly, nothing happened, but the man couldn't care less. He directly squeezed his head out of the window, but the crack was too small. It only made his cheeks ache. He could only let out a miserable scream and withdrew his head. Seeing the ship about to pass by, if he missed this opportunity, he would likely lose the chance to survive. The man thought anxiously and suddenly came up with an idea. He reached out of the window and grabbed the cable, skillfully tied a knot, then slowly released one end of the rope, letting it sink into the sea along the current, wrapping tightly around the yacht's propeller at the bottom, forcing the yacht to stop moving forward. Unexpectedly, as the rope tightened, it directly strangled the man. Seeing that he was about to be choked to death, the man desperately struggled. In order to survive, he had to find a way to save himself. He randomly groped around and actually pulled out a stick. So he used the corner of the stick to hook onto the rope, exerting all his strength to try to break free. The rope tightened more and more, causing the man's mouth to salivate and snot to flow. Finally, he freed himself. In the moment of escaping death, the man collapsed on the ground, but the cargo ship had already passed by the yacht and was getting farther away in the opposite direction. Seeing the hope of survival shattered, the man fell into despair. But it didn't end there, since the propeller was completely entangled. He couldn't control the yacht's direction anymore. The sea breeze blew the yacht towards an unknown route. Not only that, the long journey had made the man thirsty and hungry. But he couldn't find a drop of fresh water, not even in the bathroom. Seeing that he might die of thirst here, suddenly water started seeping into the sealed cabin. The man squatted down, scooping up the seeping seawater, and drank it. Instantly, he spewed out the salty seawater. Clearly, in his desperate hope for survival, he had forgotten the common knowledge that seawater cannot be drank. To make matters worse, the man found that the seawater was seeping into the cabin faster and faster. If it continued like this, the entire cabin would be flooded. He would be drowned in the toilet, even if not from thirst. The man became more and more desperate, frantically twisting the doorknob trying to open the door, but it was useless. The door remained shut. So I picked up the cup and poured the spreading seawater out the window, trying to prevent myself from being submerged in this small bathroom. However, fate seemed to never let go of the man in front of me. The yacht suddenly changed direction as if it was being controlled by a mysterious person, slowly sailing towards another stormy area. The sky soon became covered with dark clouds and a torrential rain followed. The rushing rainwater kept pouring into the cabin, rapidly filling the narrow space with seawater. The man could only quickly close the windows to prevent the rain from coming in. The seawater almost flooded the entire toilet, leaving only enough space for the man's head to float above the water. Thus, the man completely fell into a coma. After a while, the sky cleared again, indicating that the yacht had left the stormy area. However, the long period of soaking had almost made the man lose consciousness. He struggled to raise his hands and move his stiff limbs. After gradually regaining consciousness, he began to look for a way to open the door. He kept banging on the door, trying to force it open, but he was already exhausted and couldn't move his weak body, let alone open the door. In despair, he looked at the door lock again and inexplicably decided to give it another try. To his surprise, the door opened completely with a gentle turn. Happiness came to suddenly and the man was at a loss. He knew that the current situation was too bizarre and quickly went to the deck, his panicked heart finally calming down slowly. Obviously, the man had realized the strangeness of the yacht and knew he had to find a way to get away from there. So, he started searching and preparing to see if there were any useful tools. The gas can in the boat box seemed to be effective. He then went to the cabin, removed the broken door, and firmly fixed the gas can to the bottom of the door panel. Just like that, a simple drift valve was made. The man threw the drift valve into the sea and secured it to one end of the yacht with a rope, preparing to leave the yacht. Obviously, this creepy yacht scared him and he didn't dare to approach it any longer. After pulling a sufficient distance, he carefully observed the yacht in front of him but found no movement. Feeling suspicious, he suddenly decided to swim back, thinking that he was just being paranoid. With such a large yacht, he believed that he could repair it and sell it for a big price, thus living a carefree life. Thinking of this, the man became motivated and began preparing to repair the ship. After working on painting, draining, and seeking help for a while, he unexpectedly saw a fishing boat appearing in the distance. Overjoyed, the man jumped into the water and slid towards the fishing boat on the raft. But at this moment, the yacht behind him unexpectedly started to move and headed towards the man. It was clear that the yacht didn't want the man to escape. Finally, at the last moment, the man had no choice but to jump into the water. There was no boat in sight anymore. The man was left floating alone in the sea until it got dark. When the man was in despair, the creepy yacht appeared behind him. The man was extremely terrified, but he had no choice. He could only drag his exhausted body onto the deck and go straight to the room to sleep. The next day, the man woke up, but a night of sleep couldn't eliminate his exhaustion. He struggled to get up and looked out the small window, watching the distant sea receding. Obviously, he had no idea where he was. Suspecting something, he turned to the door and found that it was tightly closed. So the man tried to turn the door handle, but it wouldn't open. Clearly, it was expected. The man didn't seem to be panicked, but he needed to find a way out. He turned his head to see if there were any other passages and finally found a small storage space behind the toilet. The exit was right in front of him. The man was instantly ecstatic and quickly opened the partition. He crawled through the narrow passage and found the exit on the top as expected. However, before the man could rejoice, a thick layer of glass firmly blocked him inside. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't move even a bit. To make matters worse, the entrance that he just came through suddenly closed automatically. The man panicked, completely trapped in the narrow space. Not only that, the sealed environment prevented the flow of air. As time passed, after the oxygen was gradually depleted, the man was on the verge of suffocating inside. Just when he thought he would die, the yacht suddenly made a graceful stop. The man was shocked. To his surprise, the partition on the lower part of the passage opened automatically. The man, with a bewildered face, crawled out of the storage room and walked to the door. Clearly, the door could also be opened normally. This strange scene made the man tremble, hesitating about what to do, until he climbed onto the deck. A familiar small town came into view. The man decisively left the yacht and entered the town. Carefully observing, he didn't find a single person there, only dilapidated houses that seemed to tell inexplicable stories. After searching in vain, he suddenly heard a noise behind him. When he turned his head, he was immediately stunned. The creepy yacht that was docked by the shore miraculously started turning around and sailing towards the sea. Even though there were no oars or sails, it was moving at a considerable speed, heading towards the ocean. Until it passed by the houses, the man quickly climbed to the wall, attempting to see where the yacht was going. But there was no trace of the yacht in front of his eyes. The vast sea appeared before him. Such a strange scene plunged the man into deep fear.